All right, so it's been a week since I got the Raptor back from paint, and so what I wanted to take you through today was a few of the modifications that were done, talk a little bit about the other fender that needed to get repaired. If you watch the series where I compounded and completely corrected the truck and then coated it, there was a run and then there was polish that was flinged all over the side of the truck, and so we ended up having to have the whole fender sanded, that whole spot, then blended, because for whatever they did with the rotary, they heated up the paint so much that they separated not only the paint but the base layer from the fender, and so we at Ultimate Auto was able to go in, sand it down, fill it, and then blend it without having to blend the hood and the other panels. They were able to spot fix that one spot. So it's now, I would call it 98%. I purposely haven't gotten the lights out. I don't even want to know. It looks good. It looks, like I said, it's probably 98%. I mean, anytime you paint anything, it's not preferred. So anyway, I want to talk a little bit about the changes and the slight modifications, and then what I have in the future. Actually, you can't see it in frame here, but I have the Gen 1, my white one, my 2013 right here. So I'm going to be talking about, or maybe showing you a little bit of the differences between the way the truck is currently set up, and I'm going to almost emulate. I'm going to emulate a lot of the things on the Gen 1, suspension-wise, wheel and tire-wise, on the Gen 2. And so I'm going to share that with you. Another thing that you'll want to check out by the time this video is up, or maybe shortly after, there's a channel called Truck Central, which I've agreed to collaborate with. And so what I'm going to be doing here this weekend is doing a point of view driving difference, what it's like between driving the V8 Gen 1 with older technology and then the V6 twin turbo Gen 2. And I'm going to talk through, my experiences and what it's like, the differences between the two trucks. So that'll be over on Truck Central. I'll put a link in the description here. So my guess is by the time I release this video, I'll have that one done as well. I've got to clean out the interior of the Gen 1 because Michelle has crap all in it, so I got to get all that crap out of there. So anyway, let's talk about what was done. Obviously, Fender Flares, I guess it's not obvious if you're not a Raptor guy, you wouldn't know that these are plastic. So it would be the same color as the bumper is. That's the color of the plastic Fender Flares. So I have those filled and painted body match. I don't know that I'd really care about having that if I wasn't going to be doing a slightly wider wheels and tires, doing a leveling kit, so level the front and rear, so if I wasn't doing a little bit more aggressive offset, I don't know that I would care, but a combination of this and then doing the aftermarket amp research side steps, the motorized side steps, it kind of, and I'll show you on the Gen 1, it makes the truck sit wider and then come in narrower and come out wider. I'd really dig that look, and to be honest with you, I would have never known to do it, but Charles did it on my Gen 1, but that's the first change. As we painted the flares, also painted the inside. You don't need to do anything with line Xing the front, but in the rear we did that. I'll show you that in a minute. So all four Fender Flares are painted in order to give you that illusion, or that wider stance. The other big change, I wanted to try this. The grill around here, the Ford, if I had a choice, I'd rather just get rid of the whole darn Ford thing. So maybe someone will be coming out with an aftermarket grill or some point that looks OEM, but without the Ford on it. But for now, I took and painted it again. The grill was this same black, kind of crinkle or metallic looking gray, and it was painted gloss black instead. I know that the gloss black now doesn't match the bumper. It doesn't clash, but it doesn't match perfectly. I did that because this front bumper will be going. I'll be taking the front bumper off. And so what the design, or what the intent is, and I wish I did it all at once because I had to tear this all apart in order to paint it. I'm going to be doing the Addictive Desert Designs ADD Pro front bumper, which the front frame horns will have to be cut. There's a new skid plate or stump jumper plate that replaces that. There will be a rigid LED bar that goes in the middle. I'll put a picture here in the video and show you what that looks like, but I'll be doing that next. That bumper is like, you know, install is over $5,000, so that's why I didn't do it right now. I'll do that at some point here in the not too distant future. And so that'll be a kind of, that'll be a black, which will kind of match the rest of the trim. And so, you know, I left the trim, you know, the little side vent thing looking trim, the trim here, that matches the trim on the bed and the mirrors and all of that. And so I gloss blacked this. I didn't paint the honeycomb because the honeycomb never comes out quite right. At least not this deep honeycomb. The honeycomb on the Gen 1 is painted, but it's a little bit smoother and more rounded than this is. And so that was a modification we did. I had that painted gloss black. So then the rear, I have this kind of parked funny because I was trying to get them both so you could see on screen. So the rear, obviously painted, and I'm going to start using this term. I'm going to call it Florida dirty. So the truck is Florida dirty, not winter dirty like most of you are experiencing. But anyway, it probably looks pretty decent on camera. Here in person, it's all dirty. You know, it's covered with dirt and water spots and things, but not permanent water spots. But you know what I'm saying. So anyway, painted the fender flares. Also same thing the inside, and then had the underside of the fenders, had the entire under area Line-X'd, which made a huge difference, I think, in the way it looks. And so that Line-X lining will help keep from, you know, corroding and things like that. Plus, it looked really unfinished, especially when I do the Devers rear suspension, which I'll show you in a second on the Gen 1. You'll be able to see this probably a slight bit more because it'll be, I think, depending on, I think I'll do 3-inch Devers, get rid of the block, and so I think it ends up being about 3/4 of an inch higher than it is now. I don't want to lift the truck, and then what we'll have to do is we'll probably have to raise the front up about an inch to level it, so we have a, you know, a nice level stance. And again, we'll have a slightly more aggressive offset with the Method. I think I'm doing the Method Mesh 306, which will be an 18mm offset. And I'll be going to a 325 from a 315, which would you know, make it look a little wider. So again, getting rid of the goofy factory wheels. That's why I didn't do the bead logs. I didn't want to mess with them. And so I'm doing, and you know, the truck's so heavy. I don't know, the Methods are such a bargain, even though they're cast. I haven't found a forged wheel that's worth it to me to spend the money. You know, if Volk made TE37s, I would probably put it on here. But the Methods look so good. I'll be doing, I forget the company, but there's a company that makes, because Method still has that goofy 1980s, you remember American racing wheels or whatever, they have that big center cap thing that sticks out. And so there's a company that makes an aluminum flush, you know, flat piece. I think it's $125 a set. It costs almost as much as one of the wheels. The wheels are only like $240 or $230 a piece. And so what I'm going to be doing is slightly more aggressive offset, go up one size. I like lots of meat on the tires. I just think it looks better. And so I'll be doing 18, so 325. 65, these are 315, 70 BF Goodrich KO2s, and so I'll be doing I'm going to do the KO2s. I really like these tires. They're quite a bit more quiet, or quieter, I should say, than the Gen 1. I have the Nitto Terra grapplers on there, and they look good, but I don't know. I just like these tires. I think they're great. They're more expensive, but I really like how they respond to the road. So anyway, I'll be doing, I don't know, some basic lugs. The wheels only cost, shoot, it's like $1,100 for the wheels. The other thing I'll be doing, and I'll show you how all the bolts are rusted. The zinc plated bolts are rusted on the old NV methods, the original methods on my Gen 1. I'm going to be switching both trucks out to all stainless. I'll be coating the wheels and doing my normal prep maintenance before I do the tires. So that's, you know, what the painted rear fender looks like, the fender flare. And again, I don't think the fender flares, I don't think it's necessary to paint unless you're going to stance it out a little bit. Now, I don't want to see any poke. I don't like poke. The flushness of the Gen 1, it's like right on the edge. You notice a little bit of poke here, but at the top we have a, you know, you can basically draw a straight line, and the wheels are in the fender well there. So that's something that's important. Let's look at the rear. This is the part I'm not sure about. It's going to be in the shades. It's going to be a little harder to see. I'll move it around and get a little better video of it for you here in a minute. But I had the rear applique painted gloss as well. I don't know what I'm going to do with the rear bumper. This is the one thing I was torn on what to do. I don't know, it's kind of neat. I didn't want to paint it body colored. I don't like the way that the rear deck on the new, you know, the new Ford trucks, the new, well, I guess it'd be 2017 and up, the new generation of Ford trucks without this applique. And I don't like the applique, but I like it more than I like it without something here. And so, I don't know, maybe I'll redo this and should have listened to Charles and painted it blue, you know, just to match. But I wanted to see, you know, what it would look like in gloss black. I think it looks good. I'm going to be interested in how it looks when I get the wheels and everything set up, and we'll see how it goes. But I don't really intend to do anything with the exhaust. I don't think I'll do anything with the rear bumper. I'm not sure yet, unless I find a rear bumper that I really like. I don't know, the rear bumpers, a lot of times the tubular stuff, and I don't know, it just doesn't look as good. It's kind of like my RPG bumper on the Gen 1. I'm not a huge fan of it, but it's cool, you know. But the front bumper I'm going to be putting on this truck is going to be awesome. So that's what we did on the rear. So it was this fender right here. So there was a run. You know, there was like a noticeable lifted sort of bubble right here. And so it doesn't really matter what happened because it's fixed. But I know the main reason I noticed it before I even messed with the polishing the truck when it was dirty right off the truck. I didn't notice it at the dealership, but I noticed it like a day later, that this piece was covered in polish. It was polished all the way up here. It was polished all the way down the window because I didn't have the dealer prep it. You know, I didn't want the dealer messing with it. So we know it wasn't, Weichert didn't mess it up. They did exactly what I asked, you know, so before you get all crazy about, you know, blaming the dealer. I mean, and I'm one to throw dealers under the bus all the time about having to deal with them. But, you know, the guys at Weichert were great. I mean, they you know, there was nothing done to mess it up because they didn't do that. It was done at whatever port or delivery center or whatever you want to call it. It was done by Ford. And so naturally, a lot of questions were like, well, shoot, you need to take that back to the dealer. You need to take the truck back. I'm like, well, they're not going to take the truck back. I don't want to give the truck back. It was ordered to my spec. I don't want to deal with the hassle. I also don't want to paint it. So I tried polishing it, and you guys saw in the videos where I, was correcting it, and they must have hit it with the rotary, blown through the clear. When Ultimate Auto started sanding it, they noticed that you could literally push it in, and so it was loose, and so the heat. The guy that did the paint thought that he thought that I blew through it, or said whoever was polishing on the thing heated it up to the point, which of course we know a DA isn't going to do that, but the rotary that they used to shoot polish all the way down the thing, they sat there and grinded away, and then probably needed to re-clear it, and so by doing so they built up so much heat that it separated the base layer from the darn body panel, and so anyway he had to work this area, sand around it and then blend it. So he was able to blend it and make it look perfect. There's a perfect match. Now again, I haven't gotten the lights out, but the match is dead on. And the fenders probably aren't perfect either, but it's just perfect to my eye. And again, if I got the light out and really sat there from different angles, you might be able to, nitpick it a little bit. But same thing on my Gen 1. Anytime you do kind of paint matching, it's never perfectly spot on, or very rarely. And so that was a disappointment that I had to do that. You know, it cost me $750. I didn't even go to the dealer. I didn't even go to Ford. I was already paying to have all the stuff done anyway. So I just decided to just do it and, you know, foot the bill and not fight over it. I see some swirls here from probably wiping this panel down, but that's no biggie. We'll be able to fix that pretty quickly. You know, it's and we'll see when I wash it, but it's one of those things where you have to remind people that a coating is not like the end all be all. Those BS claims about you can't swirl or can't scratch a car when you have a coating on it. It's just not true. So, you know, I can see it right here. So, but anyway, that'll take me 15 minutes to fix. There's also a couple of high spots on the truck from that I noticed, or they noticed and pointed out to me. I noticed on the one door handle that I left over from the coating. Somehow I missed, so I'll have to compound that anyway. So I'll fix that. No biggie. It'll take me a few minutes. But anyway, the fenders, I just ordered a new piece instead of sitting there trying to get the polish off. This was like, you know, $45 or something. Just bought a new one and redid it. So that's what we had to do there. And so the last thing that was done were I decided to just have the steps done while they were there. So these are the Amp Research motorized steps. These steps are, and that's one way to keep them open, by the way. Just keep your foot on it, close the door, wait a second, it goes to lift, and then just stays open like so. But the stock step, you know, is up here. And so we have a good, you know, 5 inches, that's a good 5 inches lower. And so for me, or whatever, maybe it's just my size, or, you know, I don't know, I would guess for most people, even like my kids, the step is more usable. And so now, you know, when I go to step up, because before I was always wondering, you know, do I just step into the truck, or should I step on the side step? And so the Amp Research version gives me, you know, it just makes more sense, you know, when I get in and out of the truck. The other thing is, I mean, look how nice it looks when they disappear. I mean, I think it looks fantastic. And so one of the risks there is now you're going to shoot rocks up the side of the truck. That's part of the argument of why a lot of guys that do a lot of off-roading. I'm not doing any off-roading, so it doesn't matter to me. I think it looks better like that. And these things function really well, and they're super sturdy. So let me just kind of take it around here and show you, you know, how it would work if you're getting in and out of the truck. So again, you know, if I was getting in and out before, the other step was all the way up here. So I'm like, well, do I just step in, or should I step on that little step? Whereas this just makes it much more natural to step in the truck and sit. You know, and then when I'm getting out, you know, the other step was here. So it's like, well, should I just step to the floor? I found myself scraping the back of my legs. This is just a much more natural position where I step down and out. And they're so stout that, like, it doesn't, like, I mean, I'm 240 pounds and I can stand on and jump around, you know, so they're really great. You know, Charles was asking me if I wanted to do, at Ultimate Auto, was asking me if I wanted to do some, you know, some heftier lighting underneath. I just did the basic Amp Research lights. I didn't really feel the need to do anything more sophisticated, you know, and so that's the last modification we did to the truck this go around. So mostly cosmetic stuff in preparation for the wheels and the, you know, the other suspension changes that I plan on doing. So anyway, I'm going to go over, let's go over and look at the Gen 1 and kind of compare the two and show you them, you know, and show you what I'm intending to do that, you know, kind of matches up with that. So let's go look at that stuff. So notice the stance difference on the Gen 1, and, you know, I'll pan over to the other truck here, but notice the difference between the two. So, you know, height, I have a leveling kit, front and rear, so the height is the same. You know, the front is probably about an inch higher than, you know, on the Gen 1 than it is on the Gen 2. And so let's talk a little bit about the rear end, because the front is a simple leveling kit, which is a little collar that goes on the shock. But the rear is quite a bit different, you know, on this truck than it is on my, you know, factory on my Gen 2. So we have 18s, 325s, 325/65s, so not quite as much meat on the tire, but you know, similar. So 325/65 18 ends up being very similar height-wise to a 315/70/17. They're within a fraction of an inch, and so our speedometer will still be pretty accurate. But anyway, this truck has the same thing, where we have Line X, the interior, but this has a stage 3 or stage 2. Stage 2 or I think it's stage 3 RPG rear suspension. The shocks are not upgraded, but the bump stops are, which, you know, I think Charles just did it just because they had it all torn apart, so they weren't all that expensive. But I think it's an RPG bump stop. And then we have a Devers Plus 3. So a Devers Plus 3 has more sections internally in the leaf spring. You know, the leaf spring runs from here to here and runs up underneath the truck. The reason why he did that, and the reason why I want to do it to my new truck, is for towing and then just sort of handling on the street. You know, Raptors in general get kind of loopy, and that's by design, because they're designed to be, you know, used, you know, high-speed off-road Baja type driving. And so, you know, the disadvantage to that is that you put a couple of 100 pounds in the bed, or you tow anything, and the rear end really squats down. And so adding the Devers Plus 3 would jack up the rear end. And so what you need to do is you need to remove the factory block. And so I think when you move that block, I think it's like 2 inches. You know, maybe some of you guys in the comments can clarify that are Raptor experts. But so we come up 3, but then we remove the block, you know, where the leaf spring sits on the frame, and so it'll sit directly on the rear axle, I guess it would be, not the frame. But the rear leaf spring, you know, again, it adds more sections to the leaf spring, which raises it up about 3 inches, stiffens up the rear a little bit, but you still end up with, I think, a similar amount of travel in the rear. You just end up with a little better, you know, axis handling, and it doesn't, you know, from what I understand, it really doesn't mess up the off-road capabilities all that much. And some people, I think, believe that, you know, it makes it, you know, feel a little better. What I notice is with the leveling kit in the front and the rear, you know, there's a lot less body roll, so it makes it a much more streetable truck. I know that I'm blaspheming here, but doing the Devers in the rear, I'll be doing that. I think they're like $1,800. I don't think I'll be doing any of the other frame bracing or anything like that. I think I'll just do the Devers and call it a day, do the leveling kit, you know, so you're looking at, you know, with install and everything, probably, because I'll just pay someone to do it. I don't want to do that. So you're looking at, you know, probably $3 or $4 grand to get the whole suspension, you know, dialed in to make it look like this truck does. But you'll notice, same thing here. I have the painted fenders, painted inner, and then we have Line X in the rear, and not in the front. But just look at the stance difference of this thing. I mean, it looks very different than the Gen 1 or the Gen 2. You know, it just looks tougher and meaner. So then, you know, this Raptor, the Gen 2, has the RPG front bumper. You know, the frame horns are cut on this. This is a tubular steel design. I mean, that's the cool thing about, you know, bumpers. We also, this is painted gloss black, but he didn't paint the Ford emblem on this. So that's kind of where I got the idea to paint the Gen 2. But anyway, that was something that I decided to do because of what the Gen 1 looked like. But the stance is just so much different on having the Devers in the rear, which makes it more towable, and then having the more aggressive offsets on the wheels and tires, and then painted fender flares with the Amp Research side steps. The new side steps are a little bit different looking, but you get the idea. So this truck looks pretty sweet. I like the look of the rear end on this Raptor so much better. Not so much better, but better than I do on the other. There's no need for me to do anything with the rear bumper on this. I think this looks great. But look at the stance. So see what I'm talking about here with the wide hips and then the narrow inner or waist, if you will, of the truck. And that's what getting rid of those, you know, the factory side steps does for us. It makes it look really clean, I think. So that's the story and where we're at on the current Raptor. I'll be talking about more on the Truck Central channel while I drive it, but I don't think I'm really going to mess with this thing motor-wise. This is my car that is, you know, reliable. I can drive every day. I don't think I want to mess with, like, you know, intakes and yeah, I mean, maybe I'll do an intake, but I don't think I want to mess with exhausts and things like that. That thing sounds like crap, so I don't want to amplify the crappy sound. Maybe I'll keep an eye on what's available, but as of right now, the main modifications will be devers in the rear, and removal of the block, the factory leveling kit or aftermarket leveling kit in the front to balance it out, wheels and tires, and then, you know, the truck will be pretty well set up. I have to put a radar detector in it. This thing's pretty darn fast, and I'll show you that in the, you know, in the driving video. So anyway, I love both trucks. Again, my wife drives the Gen 1 mostly. I drive the Gen 2. I'll be talking a lot about the creature comforts that the new technology, Apple CarPlay and Ford MySync 3, the B&O system is awesome in this thing. So it really almost makes it feel like I'm driving around in a luxury car. So anyway, make sure to go check out that other video, and I'll have more Raptor stuff here as I do the modifications to the bumper and the suspension and wheels and tires. Thanks for watching. What happens when the force pulls you back, your foot naturally comes off the gas. You have to keep your foot to the floor, foot to the floor.